Microsoft is working.
Oh yes, it is unbelievable, crazy, how global the situation has got. Luckily for us in Daily Pay, we don't rely on Microsoft or CrowdStrike so much. So I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed. I think the impact is minimal. Although it will inevitably impact some of our customers or end users. So yet to be determined the impact on us.
Yeah. So in the morning, the first thing I checked the computer system to see if I can connect to something or what happens at the university, but it doesn't seem to be anything worrying so far.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So today is about first finding out how things went in this year. So if you both can comment how you feel about the placement, and then a presentation about one of the projects. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start. Obviously, this has been like a great placement for me. I have learned a lot. I have learned about, real world technologies, how uh, like stuff gets deployed in a real world environment, how to work with GitHub's automation, and like how to, actually work with data in a real world environment, and how terabytes and terabytes of data is managed, and what kind of engineers, what kind of response team, what kind of alert system, what kind of metrics we need to have around our systems, so that we can, be informed in a timely manner, and obviously have a response to that situation or problem. Plus, I believe that all of my team members, including my manager, has supported me a lot in a lot of things. Like in a lot of things, they have supported me a lot, and like my mentors were like great teachers. Like they always, encourage me to take on tickets, and they always encourage me to, like learn new stuff, and they never say like no to anything about learning and stuff. Our Slack channels are full of stuff related to new technologies that come in, like daily pay. Basically, like any new engineer comes, they just start sharing about new languages and new technologies that exist out there. So all in all, it was a very good experience and very good learning experience for me, for this year. And I do hope that I get to continue, but like this is up to the company. So and Dave, obviously.
Well,
Yeah. For the time being, you have to come back to uni and then discuss further with them. You have to graduate first.
Yep.
so it's been a very good year. It's been a pleasure to have Kanishk with us. As a placement engineer, he's delivered strong results. There's no doubt about it. That there's a the team that he's in is a very critical team to the success of Daily Pay. So there is that intensity and pressure of what's going on around him. He's both fortunate and unfortunate to be in a very high performing team. To his strength, Kanishk won't shy away from anything. I kind of laugh at this as well. And it's a kind of disadvantage. He compares himself to some very high performing and very tenured engineers. And at times throughout the year, stop comparing yourself to Derek. He's been in the business
For 15
15
years, yes.
we have expectations, and the expectations for Derek and some of the others are way up here. You're adjusting, and you'll readjust and you'll adjust again to academic life and into the fast-paced software environment that you're in. So that's not really a negative. That's just watch out for that. your appetite for learning new stuff and getting stuck into things is really impressive. I'm amazed at the learning curve that you've come up. And as the year has progressed, I'm getting feedback and I'm seeing it. Your visibility and input is increasing all of the time. So Kanishk has worked on some of the top projects that are really important to us. There's a particular one about international expansion, so it's not busy work that we are creating. You're having an impact to the team and to the important work that we're undertaking at the moment. I'm hoping the noise of my dog in the background is being minimized.
Yeah.
So apologies if you can hear it. And here she is coming into me. But it's okay. It's fine. But yeah, getting back to this is important work that you're doing for us, and I think you're gonna step through it in your presentation, which I look forward to seeing as well. So.
Okay, good. So I'm happy everybody it's content, it's happy with how things went. So then we can just go to the presentation and see more specifically some work.
Okay. So, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
We can, yes.
This is my presentation of all the works that I did at DailyPay, and this is just a table of contents. I'll go through each one just in a moment. So, in the introduction section, as we can see, the entire tech stack that I have worked upon at DailyPay. As you can see, basically it was related to creating a section of an ETL pipeline that we were working on, extract, transform, and load pipeline. That is the main DEX pipeline through which the data comes in, and we process that data. One part of the data, related to earnings or something like that, comes to our service that we work on, the ledger service, that is responsible for generating the available balance and that kind of stuff around the application. For deployment and the infrastructure as code, we use Terraform and Docker, and the base language of everything was Golang. So the company gave me intensive training of Golang and AWS and Terraform resources, how to deploy stuff, how to read through the documentation at the beginning, and then also related to CI/CD pipelines and GitHub action automation. So we heavily rely on GitHub actions for automation of our releases and automating the deployment process, automating the continuous integrations, like testing and everything has been automated completely using GitHub actions. One of the very good technologies that we use is Kafka for event-based processing. So this is something different from cron job or scheduling processes. It is just architecture that we follow. It is very modern, and I think this is used in robotic systems as well, like the producer consumer model. This is something that I learned in year 2. This is what I remember. And lastly, for project management, we use Jira. It's a very good Atlassian project management tool, and it basically allows us to create bulk tickets, how to create epics. And in that specifically, rather than using contemporary technologies like Agile or something like that, we use Kanban. And it has a very good and flexible type of work methodology where we can just go and pick up tickets. So there is no foundation on anyone to not pick up tickets or pick up tickets. So picking up tickets and getting work is very easy, and if you are comfortable with picking up tickets, then you are just allowed to pick up tickets. There's no foundation on that. So this is the basic tech stack, and the stuff that I was using to build systems. As you can see, all of this contributes to a SOA based architecture, service oriented architecture. There are multiple services inside of this ecosystem. One of the services was our team, the Ledger team. It was initially known as the data platform team. Later it transformed into the Ledger team. just to go about an overview of the projects that I was working on. So some of the projects were like DEX, the main ETL pipeline, had very low visibility of earnings processing that were going inside the ledger. So I had an epic of tickets where I had to add log statements to increase that visibility inside of the ledger service to the DEX service. And it was related to complete metrics and like Datadogs. Like for metrics we use Datadog, so it was related to adding those logs and recognizing the faults that exist inside the API. One of the most important projects that Dave already mentioned was internationalization of the DP API. So recently our operations have expanded to Canada from the US. So we had to make the currency, like we have to make the API currency agnostic. Earlier it used to only work with the US dollar, but now it works with the Canadian dollar as well. So as we go into more countries, so we will have to like not introduce that much support because the API is already currency agnostic. No values are hard coded. So one of the important features was a complete new version of jobs processing like V3, which was completely different from V1 and V2 versions of job processing that existed. And it was very modern and very fast and like very compact as compared to the earlier versions. So I had contributions in that as well. And one of the very like challenging projects that I did at the starting of my placement was creating a generic response handler for the entire API. So this was a very radical small project that I got, and like this actually helped the API reduce a lot of lines of code. So just for comparison, what I did, this is one of the endpoints that existed in our API prior to that generic response handler change. Earlier, the entire error handling was done manually. We were mapping the errors that were coming to individual error codes and then generating a response based on that. But once the change was made, no error mapping was required, nothing was required, and you can just pass the response object and the error object, and the response handler will take care of the entire error handling and response handling. So this was done for the entire API. Like we're talking about more than 40 endpoints. So a lot of code was reduced and removed. Like this was a lot of good for that was done. So that was that. And coming to the technical contributions and learnings, for more these kind of projects, see like these were like 3-4 tickets that I basically took a lot of time to develop, and these were some of the tickets that actually mattered. But if we go into the great expectation sheet, I have done like a lot of tickets, so we can put that also in technical contributions and learnings. But just to be compact, I have mentioned that one instance where I feel that it was a good contribution because our metrics for the entire ledger service was not working, and the failure metrics were not working, and it required some debugging. And with the help of a senior engineer, Johnny Bell, we debugged the entire thing, and the failure metrics of the ledger service was restored. When it comes to learnings, the company enrolled me in 3 courses till now. They gave me a course of backend masterclass, Golang plus Postgres plus Kubernetes plus gRPC. I completed this course. This is my Udemy certification for that. And this is the Golang course to get me acquainted with the basics of Golang, how stuff works, what is the syntax and everything. And because the core monolith app was in Ruby, so I was supposed to learn that also, but because the work was restricted and like ledger was completely related to Golang, so I'm still doing that course. It's a very big course, so this course has not been completed, so it will be completed with time. Should be completed with time.
And I would add that we're moving away from Ruby.
Exactly.
So it's of limited value, but it's definitely of value, as you might have heard from chats with other engineers. But yeah, that's fine. I'm happy with that.
So these were about my technical contributions and learnings, ma'am. And lastly, but not leastly, obviously, coming to the project management and collaboration, what kind of system did we have to, actually like create tickets. How did we create a ticket? So there was some reporter of a ticket that used to come with a problem, and then we used to create depending on the severity of the issue, they either used to create an epic or a simple ticket would suffice. Then that ticket would work, no problem. Rest we had daily stand-ups, uh, approximately, because half of the team is American. So depending on the, like, a good time for the Belfast team and the American team, we had daily stand-ups for if anyone is facing any problems with the tickets, any blocking work or something like that, that is meant for the stand-up process. uh, Columns on the board. So the Jira board had a lot of columns, for backlog, for prioritized, for ready, for in progress, for in review, for review 2. Then it went into deployment, and then actually some senior engineer used to deploy the stuff, because like I had no knowledge of. So there was help over that also from the start. So as for deployments, I have done 2 real world deployments so far, one for the payment service and one for the ledger service, obviously under the supervision of my mentor, uh, because I had little context about that. But deployment is something very unpredictable, and like you cannot know, because sometimes I saw that like deployments went down because GitHub was down, because GitHub Actions was not working or something, AWS went down or something like that. So uh, like, and plus if it doesn't deploy on the time, then company will suffer some losses. So uh, I took it little easy when it came to deployments. So that was that.
And that's absolutely fine. And the expectations for you were not really to undertake deployments.
Exactly.
That is for more senior engineers, but it's good that you got that experience.
Exactly. For communications and notifications, we use Slack. It has a very modern API, and like uh, I don't know about Teams, but Slack is something very powerful. We have deployment notifications. We have every kind of notifications linked to Slack. Even if a version change happens, even if any kind of error happens, we are notified on Slack then and there. So it's a very good communication channel for me to talk to the team, and for them to talk to me and convey messages. So that is something that I would like to point out. Like Slack usage is very, very good over here. Uh, in terms of extracurricular activities, if you may remember that in the starting, I had participated in the Daily Pay Hackathon as well, and we did build an augmented reality application. There's a video link also. If you want, we can go there. Otherwise, I had discussed this earlier also. So we participated in that, and this was our team in that scenario. So coming to the conclusion, it was a very good experience for me. It was a very good developer experience for me. Like I learned a lot, and huge shout out to Dave Cunningham and Johnny Bell, Niall Carey, all of the Belfast team, all of the American team for supporting me. And they were senior experienced engineers. They could have like kept all of this knowledge to themselves, and like nothing would have gone wrong, but they like chose to share everything. Like they never said no to me for anything. Like whatever I wanted to learn, even right now I was asking Johnny for tickets, but he was like, calm down. Now like there's a week left, so you can take it easy. So I was like, okay. So yep, this was my journey at Daily Pay, ma'am. And finally, if anybody has any questions, then I would be more than happy to answer them if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Dave, would you like to say something?
Just echoing what I said previously. You've had a great year, Kanishk. I've been super impressed with your enthusiasm and your willingness to jump in. You've had a massive learning curve. So you've done an amazing job. There's great feedback from your colleagues on the Ledger team. You've had a great chance to populate. So the grade expectations that Kanishk referred to earlier is a document that we use for every level of engineer, which outlines the expectations, right from a placement engineer to we categorize them from SE1, SE2, senior engineer, a staff engineer, a senior staff, and then a principal engineer. That's the whole gamut of the engineering discipline, and there's certain dimensions within that we would expect from all levels of engineering, and then they're kind of the expectations are outlined for those different levels, and Kanishk has certainly met the placement ones and the SE2 ones as well. And what I can share with you, Kanishk, is although we can't make you an offer of employment now because you'd be starting in our next fiscal year, we can confirm, and I will send you an email that is our intention. It's not a definitive
I
offer
completely
at
get
the
completely
moment,
get that, Dave.
but that will be our intention, and I'll confirm that in an email to you either today or on Monday. So
Thank you so much, Dave.
great job, well done.
Great job. It's just like I would like to
Thank
thank you more because Dave, you have been like you especially have been more like whenever I needed a holiday and like I was like burdened with work, never has my team like not taken the burden, the initiative, and like if some ticket was on the board, they would always review it, and like everything is so systematic and so clear that it was so easy to traverse everything and like to learn everything. They gave me every type of resources I want, like all my urge to learn and like gain knowledge was satisfied. You get me, like and like it's real world. So plus they are like very highly educated people, like my principal engineer Derek Rushing, he has an experience of more than 15 years in this line. Imagine what kind of stuff he would have not built, and like what do they not know, and like it's a very high performing team, and like even the new hires, they perform, they talk to you, they help you out in every kind of scenario. So like that is something like I have not seen in because I have no experience, I don't know about
You
other
haven't
companies,
tried
but
many places, so but I can
exactly.
see
But like
it's
really they have
interesting
been
that
very supportive
everything
of me.
is even this document, which documents the expectations from each role. That's very interesting, and it's
Exactly.
specific to industry or some industries. You don't find it everywhere.
Exactly.
Okay, so I can conclude from this discussion that both of you are very happy with the placement itself and the work done, and that's the main aspect of it, and you gain a lot of experience. I'm wondering, Kanish, if you have actually read the requirements from the university of how you conclude the placement through these assignments that you have to create.
Yeah, ma'am, I have.
Have you read them?
Completely, ma'am. I have started filling the IIT CPD.
Have you read the one about this presentation?
Yes, ma'am. I sent it to Dave also before like it was completely like did you see some format changes or something like that? Like was it not up to the mark or something like that?
No. So the point I was aiming to do is in
Okay.
the description of the assignment,
Uh-huh.
it is said that this particular presentation is not, and it shouldn't be an overall of everything you have done.
Okay.
It is in essence a project or part of a project if you worked on many other projects, and you present it as a project in itself, as a technical project.
One
So
project.
in this respect, you could consider, for example, one ticket you have worked on and present that as a project. What have you done? How you have approached it? The technical aspects of it in the level you can present it if it's not confidential. So can you elaborate, take one of these tickets and speak a little bit more about it?
Just a sec, ma'am. So like this specific ticket generating moving to use generic response handler for the ledger service, this ticket approximately took me 45 days to complete. So it was one of the get me like the projects of the ledger service. So this is something that I could elaborate on very easily, and this is some good considerable work that I did for the company. And as I mentioned that earlier there were like uh,
Yeah, so that's if you work 45 days, this is a lot of work that you have put there. And this is what you were supposed to show in this presentation. Take this work, the 45 days, and present that as a technical work that you have done.
Okay. So, like what happened earlier was the ledger service was written in a specific format. The endpoints had proper, like
Okay.
improper
So
response.
let's stop you for a little bit.
Sorry.
If this is a presentation that you make to different people, so you don't make it just to the colleagues with which you have worked, you present it to me and in principle to others, you have to introduce the topic first.
Okay.
In your presentation, there is no introduction to present, at least very broadly, the type of business of your company, the type of work in your department, the type of work in your team, and then to speak about one particular project in detail. You don't jump straight away into all these technical terms that people might or might not know.
You have to write it for a non-technical audience.
Exactly. And like, sorry, ma'am,
Yeah, and audience which does not know the details of the work. For David, yes, everything is clear. He knows what you have done. Somebody else doesn't know. Yeah, I have some ideas because we discussed previously in the previous meeting, but the presentation should have been self-contained to assume that the audience does not know about your company, about your work, and you introduce that, and then a little bit about one of the projects.
Okay.
That was the expectation, and it was detailed in the description of the assignment, which is called audit presentation, if you read it.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. I did read it, but I think I misinterpreted it. So I'm so sorry for that. If you want, I can elaborate upon it more. But if you were like judging,
Yeah, you can try now to elaborate. So, how you have organized your work around this ticket, how you have started, what was the aim, what were the steps that you followed, what technology you have used at different steps.
So
in this kind of way should have been presented.
No problems. If you just give me 2 minutes, I can like change the just to make it a little
You
bit more
don't
clear.
have to right now. You can just speak about freely at this point
So
to give me an idea that you understand what I'm talking about.
sorry, ma'am. So Daily Pay is basically earned wage access, EWA. This is our business. This is what we do. So, for example, an employee wants his salary or her salary before their payment date. Like they want their salary on, like they have worked for 15 days and they want their salary for some reason. Even I required my salary so in the middle of the month for some reason for XYZ expenses.
Remember, it is a presentation and not a chat. Yeah.
Oh,
so try to be concise in what you say.
Okay, sorry, ma'am. So earned wage
So
access.
I'm not saying this. I'm saying for you to develop this type of skills in how you present more formally some work.
Okay, ma'am.
It's not that I will be offended or anything. You don't need to say sorry. It's not about me being offended. It's me
No, it's just
trying
that.
to guide you in the right direction.
100%, ma'am. And I'm like, I'll be mindful of that. And this is that. So earned wage access. What we do is basically we lend out the salary that the person requires through an app, and our team specifically is responsible for generating the available balance of users. This is the ledger team. The overview is that we generate the available balance for every user that is registered on our application. Now the user can either be a provider, like provided user, like for example McDonald's comes and partners up with Daily Pay that we want to pay our employees daily. Please come and register on it. There is a self-service provider portal on which McDonald's will come and register themselves, and like the employees will get the salary payments on a daily basis. So there is a proper process. There is a pipeline. There is a ETL pipeline and a gross earnings service that is running inside the ledger service that is responsible for generating the gross earnings of every user on the application, whether it be tips earnings or gross earnings, any kind of earnings. So they are responsible for generating that kind of like data, and then we put it in an API feeder service. So the API calls the data, and that data is shown to the user through a consumer app. This is the basic business that DailyPay is in, and uh, this is the team that I was working on, the Ledger team, the available balance team. Initially, it was the data platform team, but later they transformed to specifically Ledger, to available balance, and REST features like user login and authentication, and payments like communications were taken in different services, so that there was separation of concerns and ownership for each service was defined properly. This was one of the structures put forth by our principal engineers at the company. Now, my contribution, this specific ticket that I was talking about, moving to generic response handler, what happened was, because we were starting at that phase, and this kind of change requires some code to be there, and basically I'm doing response mapping. So I'm mapping the responses that the API was already generating, as you can see in this example. So if there is like a pay period, something that we don't understand, something like a variable that a pay period is not found by the API, in that case we will send a response new not found error response. In case there is a bad request, like some data that some user data was incoming, the request body was bad, the password was not right, or the username was not right, some kind of normal bad request scenario. In that case, in that scenario, we were generating this kind of response, and by default, obviously we don't know what the error is, anything can error out, so 500 response. For each and every endpoint, this Ledger service had 70 endpoints. For each and every endpoint, we had to do this kind of mapping whenever a response was generated from the helper functions for each and every endpoint. So for each and every endpoint, we needed to go and check, okay, what response are being generated, what can be made generic out of this, and plus there were metrics and monitorings also included in this, so that also had to be made generic. So for each and every endpoint, I had to go and map these responses, create tickets, put forth the API changes, because we cannot change 10 endpoints in one go or 12 endpoints in one go. The changes have to be small, 2 endpoints, 3 endpoints. That is why it took so much time, and at that point in time I was still understanding the system, because this was one of my early projects, so that is also it took this much time. But eventually, after cleaning up the entire API, more than 500 lines of code was reduced, and all of this came to just this response writer.write OK response function, which I contributed to the API. And this could take the response object that came from the helper, all the functions below it, and the error object. Either a proper response will be generated or an error will be generated. So this function will take either the response or the error, and based on some calculation that it does inside the DailyGo repo where we have our original function, it will automatically generate a response. If the pay period is not found, it will know that pay period is not found, and it will generate not found response. If it is a bad request, it will automatically know that it is a bad request. So that kind of code reduction actually helped in making the Ledger a deployable service unit. So after this came the DWT, in which the Ledger service was made reusable. So if we want to stand up a new service tomorrow, let's say Ledger 2 or something like that, we don't have to write all of this code together. We have this repo called DWT, we can just pull in and just start writing code over that. It already has everything inbuilt, like response handling inbuilt, metrics are inbuilt, metrics population is inbuilt. So that kind of generic response handling contributed to that kind of project. And even if we wanted to make further changes, it became very easy, because we don't have to go manually changing all of that code that has been centralized in a repository. So this was the context around one of the projects that I did, and a few words over what I contributed and how I contributed. Obviously there was help from the team, and they contributed, and I made tickets around this, and it was a long process, so you may understand that one.
Okay, so you use the term of endpoint. What do you mean by endpoint in this context?
It's basically a link that you create. So route www.dailypay.com, api.dailypay.com/users/pay period. Then there are query parameters. Then there is request body that you can attach to the API. Basically a link
that you can provide query parameters to. One of the newest features that they are implementing is gRPC endpoints. This is something that is routeless, a function, just a function that will take in parameters and give you the response. So that is something very like amazing. So yep, but endpoint is just a link. So yep.
Okay. So you say you work on this 45 days. So how your work was organized in these 45 days?
If I just so what happened was, as you can see, this was the original ticket that had this agenda to move to generic response handling for the ledger service. This was the original ticket. Now, after initial mapping, I found different kind of responses that generated from the API. For example, what can an endpoint generate? If we just have a random thought that if I give some response, if I give some request body to an endpoint, what can it generate? It can generate a object-based response. It can generate a list of objects. It can generate a property of an object, or it can generate a list of properties of an object. So based on these parameters, like we mapped the API, and whatever endpoints that were generating a list of something and whatever were generating just an object, they were segregated and they were like put into categories. Okay, these endpoints are generating a list of something. These endpoints are generating simple object. These endpoints are generating simple string based response. These endpoints are generating numerical responses. So this is how mapping was done, and based on that tickets were created. And once the tickets were created, then individually 3344 endpoints kept changing. The tests that were associated to that endpoints needed to change. And once the tests changed, the changes went in individually, like portion by portion, individually, and like that way we changed approximately 38 endpoints, and more than 450 lines of code was removed from the API.
Okay, so when you started to work on this particular task, ticket as you call it, did you knew straight away what you have to do? Or have you had to spend time to think what will be the steps that you need to follow?
No, I'm like, I had to spend a lot of time, because initially what I did was I just made all the changes. Like I changed 10 endpoints because
Okay, so you had to spend time to think about it, yeah? So to identify probably some subtask associated with this, what you have to do.
And plus there was a review
I
also.
think, Ganesh, it might be worth talking through, from an investigation. So a senior engineer had done an investigation and broken this task down right through those steps of how we prioritize the work in our planning or replenishment, right through to you picking up a ticket or triaging the ticket, and right through, maybe take us through that, right through to draft PR and PR and.
Can I show them can I show her the board then? Once if she sees the epic, she'll understand more like.
I don't think it's necessary. I think talking through it is probably okay.
Okay, no problems. So basically what happened was like the senior Carl Smith at the time, they helped me a lot in breaking this ticket, how it's supposed to manage, like how we're supposed to manage the ticket and how we're supposed to create the tickets. At that point in time I did not have that much context on how to create tickets, and they broke down this ticket into an epic of 6 tickets. So each epic had some endpoints linked to it. Okay, this kind of response is generated by v1 get available balance dot go. This kind of response is generated by v1 get available balance by pay period dot go. This kind of response is generated by this kind of API. That kind of mapping was done individually. I went on and iterated upon each ticket. Then what happened was, after 3 tickets I found out that some other changes are required in some other repo. So I had to go in that repo. There's a shared repo in that repo. First I had to rectify those changes, then we could change the ledger endpoints. Otherwise stuff would break. It would be a breaking change. It would not be compatible with the the earlier versions of the API. So this is how we broke the ticket into like an epic of 6 tickets, from dplat 3063 to dplat 3067, and including this, so it will become like 6 tickets. This was how we broke this task and how we managed it ticket by ticket, 3 endpoints, 4 endpoints, like this. And it was small changes, so it was tested, because we have comprehensive tests written for each and every endpoint. Like all of the functionality that we are claiming the API will have is tested. It's every like unit test, integration test, system test, regression test. There are 4 types
Well,
of tests.
so these are the points that you should have outlined in your presentation. You see, because now if we start to discuss, I can see how you did what you were supposed to do, what a normal software engineer task is about. But you spoke about all this very specific terminology, and you hid the key essence of what you did.
I'm sorry, Mama. It's just that I do not know like that this will be more like testing will be more irrelevant. I'll be careful.
Oh, of
about
course,
it.
it's more. You wrote code. Every code, what kind of code it is, doesn't matter. It has to be tested.
Obviously,
It's part of the process.
100%. We have complete testing around that. Like there are make commands. We can just run Docker setup and like make up and everything, make integration test, and everything will start running. It's brilliant. Like you don't have to go and like individually. You can also like go and run individual tests. So that is something that is inbuilt, and like it is amazing. So I should have mentioned that. Yeah, testing. Still write this. Okay.
Okay, good. So I guess I have an overview of how things went. The comments that I want to make is for the university requirements. Read again all the requirements for the assignments and do exactly what is supposed to be done there. So the presentation today, it was supposed to be a technical presentation, of course, not with technical details that you cannot present that are confidential, but showing a project which is with some technical content to it. And one of the other assignments that you have to submit is a presentation in writing of that project. So basically, the project that you are supposed to present here, you will present it in writing as a technical report, and it has specific requirements what should be in this technical report. So please pay attention to that, because otherwise there is the risk, despite of a very good work that you did there, the assessors of your assignments not to see the actual work and to be penalized in the grades that you receive.
I get you completely,
So
Mom. I'll be more careful.
Please
about
do
that.
read those assignments very carefully, as well as the others. There is one about the company presentation, and there is one which is called Portfolio of Evidence, where you discuss about everything you have done and everything you have learned
100%.
in brief.
Okay.
That provides an overview of the placement, but one of the assignments was specifically on one project presented as a technical report.
100%, ma'am. Like, I'm sorry for no if you feel that I like everything was not covered, but it's just that I tried to stick to the document as much as possible. It's just that I might have missed some points. I'll be careful about this in the future. So.
And make sure you show to Dave or to anybody else or someone else everything you submit to the university, because your employer has to be happy to communicate externally the information that you include.
100%.
So even the assignments, they have the deadline in September, but because you finish early, just make a draft, discuss them before you leave with Dave, and then you can improve them a little bit afterwards and submit later.
No problem.
But
I'll do that. I'll send everything beforehand to Dave once, and I have most of it. I have completed. It's just the CPD declarations, the IIT stuff that we are supposed to do, that is left. That I'll show Dave, and I'll get his approval before I submit.
Yeah, let's try and get that done by the end of next week, Kanish, because I'll be out on vacation.
Exactly. So yep, I'll get that done next week. No problem. I'm like. Is that?
Okay, good. So I'm clear now about the status of your placement.
Exactly.
And your work. Yeah. So, do you have any questions?
Not really, because I had read the placement submissions, everything, so I don't have any major questions, and I have done most of the assignments that I was supposed to submit. It's just that the feedback was important. I will be more careful about the content that there is inside of that stuff, but it's just that I tried to stick, but it's just that
you're saying that there's a difference, so I'll be more vigilant over that. Please, just it's just an honest mistake. I was not trying to like be more technical or like whatever. It's just an honest mistake from just a comment from my side, just for you to consider. Otherwise, like obviously you are the boss.
You're not the boss.
You are, ma'am, in this scenario. You are,
Yes, it is how it is. So I just
100%. I completely understand that, ma'am. I completely understand that. It's just that it's an honest mistake. I was not trying to be too technical. I did have that stakeholder thing in mind because you have had previous comments over this in my microcontroller project also and other projects at my university that I be too
Yes,
technical
it is.
with
So I
stuff.
remember exactly the same issue. in that
Exactly. I
presentation
remember
you
it
did.
because you were
You
my
went into
invigilator back
all
then
the
also.
details, missing the key point, the overall picture. It's exact. So that's the skill you need to develop to look also to the overall picture and then go into details if it's needed. But you jump directly into details.
Okay.
And the overall picture is not shown.
I'm
Not that
sorry.
it's not there and you don't have it. It's just that somehow you feel that it's not important.
It's not that I don't feel it's not important. It's just that I don't know what to put, what is relevant in that scenario. It's just some experience that is required. That is what I feel like. One or two times I'll do this. I'll get the hang of it. Like this is what I feel. I might be wrong, obviously. I might be wrong, but I will try to be more vigilant next time. So please, like just
Okay, good. So thank you very much. Dave, do you want to make any other comment?
No, I think that's good. I'm very happy. I can understand you have to have certain criteria or requirements. So short,
Like
concise.
more academic, but it's not just academic because you imagine he will go, let's say, for a job somewhere else. If he goes to the job, take a job with you, that's fine. But if he goes somewhere else, he has to present what he have done, and he has to have a way to present the audience to understand, even if might not be exactly in the field.
exactly.
But if he jumps straight away to speak about tickets and these numbers that he gives there, DPL80 and so on, obviously not many people understand. So that's the point. That the skills that we try to develop, so they, from the university point of view, they have to live with broader skills, not just for specific job.
I think I'm always pushing folks to use a kind of framework. So our framework for the grade expectations, it's kind of rigid. So it is the different levels and the different expectations, and then using this SOAR approach, for outlining the situation, the obstacle, the action, and the result.
Exactly.
But you also have to remember to, in any presentation that you ever do, think of the audience and tailor your presentation to the audience, and that's very important. Language that we use is very important, and you see that even within Daily Pay. Quite often, Liliana, we call things by 3 different names, and it evolves over a period of time, and folks are not exactly aligned on what we're talking about at times. So use that language and ensure it's very important. So think of the audience. So in this case, I'm not really your audience. I know these terms, but remember your audience is Liliana and whoever else that may assess your project. So I think that's a fair point.
No, 100%. That's a fair point, and I have.
So this frame here is actually very good. What he should have done is just basically take each of them and elaborate it. So situation, that's the problem he was supposed to solve. So speak about it, put it in a context, what it is about, obstacle. So what are the challenges there? Speak about it a little bit. So in essence, you should have had at least one slide for each point there with some elaboration, and that gives the overall picture of the actual work that you have done. And you treat it as a project. In terms of a generic project, situation would be the aim of that small project that you have, the problem that you need to solve.
No worries. So
And actions are actually the steps that you need to follow. What action?
exactly.
This is the overall action.
Mhm.
But then you decompose that into smaller actions to achieve these ones that specific that you want to reach the result is the ultimate aim of your project.
Okay.
So the framework it's good. It might have these names which are not always so generic, but if you would have kept them, would have been good enough. So that is what you are supposed to do.
No worries.
And what I recommend to do in your written presentation of the project,
Yep.
elaborate on each section here, situation, obstacle, and so on.
Okay. Okay. That makes it clear, ma'am. Like 100%, and it's very easy to follow, and like it gives a complete overview of what is going on. So 100%, I'll apply that right now. No worries.
Okay, good. So that's good. Anyway, you did great work there, and that
Thank you so
would
much, ma'am.
would be the key point of the
Thank you so
placement.
much, ma'am.
So,
I just do hope that your fourth year with you, it also happens to be that great. Like I'm so excited about learning applied AI and like all of that stuff that you're going to teach. So obviously you get me like just I'm very happy, and like obviously I made you proud. I feel that, and I made Dave proud.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. So thank you very much. And if nobody else has any questions or comments, we can close the meeting here.
Thank
And
you, Liliana. Thank
so
you,
much, ma'am.
Kanishk.
Thank you so much, Dave.
It's been a
Thank you very
pleasure.
much, Dave, for taking care of our students. And maybe you can have others from us as well.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so then thank you very much and bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.